Happy Friday, my fellow Funky Friday folks. What a crazy week. It's like one of Hemmer's hot tub parties. Bad things are happening, but it's okay because we're all in this together. First, last night's town hall. What did we get from Joe? An incoherent jumble of memories and confused looks, but the best impersonation of Beavis and Butthead's cornholio in history. What the hell was that? But there was more.
40% of all products coming into the United States of America on the West Coast go through Los Angeles and what am I doing here?
Is it Long Beach?
Long Beach, thank you.
Do you have plans to visit the southern border?
I've been there before, and I haven't. I mean, I know it well. I guess I should go down. But what you see is wages are actually up. Freedom. I have the freedom to kill you. My guess is you'll start to see gas prices come down as we get by and going into the winter, into next year in 2022. I must tell you, I don't have a near-term answer.
Mr. President.
By the way, there's two famous guys in this audience here.
Maybe they were Beavis and Butthead. Well, that was the opposite of comforting. It seems his only strategy is to deflect from our current misery to promising more misery. Well, that and fake stories about trains.
A lot of the folks in Amtrak became my family, not a joke. Angelo Negri was from, you remember Ange? Ange came up to me one day when they just had announced that I had flown 1 million some X number of miles on Air Force aircraft. And Ange comes up, and I'm getting in the car, and he goes, "Joey, baby, what are you?" And I thought the Secret Service was going to shoot him. I said, no, he's good, he's good. It's a true story.
True story. Rambling about trains from a human train wreck. Sorry, the only Biden who knows about rails is Hunter after he snorted a few fresh ones. So as America worries, Joe tells a debunked story about a dead Amtrak worker. This guy's memory is so bad, he's plagiarizing his own lies. As for the supply chain fiasco, we did that story last week. But like the president's memory, it's only gotten worse. Empty shelves, escalating prices, panic. Cat can't even buy hair. She's the true victim. Still nothing changed. And why? Because it doesn't affect the politicians, the rich, the activist class, the very who are responsible for this mess. But it affects you, measly country bumpkins, and you don't rate. I mean, when was the last time you wore a designer dress to a gala event? Well, for me, it was Thursday, but I digress. Sure, they dragged Buttigieg out of his fort made of marshmallows and kittens to make a statement, but he offered nothing but, sorry, you're stuck with it. He's clever, but he's no leader. He's Eddie Haskell. Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver. Except he doesn't like the beef. Now, what? Never watched the show. Now, I got nothing against paternity leave. Sorry, it's Mayor Pete that gave paternity leave a bad name. Taking off a few months? It's not like he's Octomom. He didn't have 8 kids by C-section. Getting a cushy federal perk-filled position and then bailing for 2 months as the country languishes? Who do you think you are? Kamala Harris? Hell, I didn't even bail in my first year at college, and that was after realizing it was a Holiday Inn Express. I thought that was funny when I wrote it. Fact is, no one is in charge and no one cares. Biden is a big rickety Trojan horse being dragged into your living room by Jen Psaki, Susan Rice, and Ron Klain, but there are no warriors inside, just dust. To put us in the Halloween mode, this presidency is the headless horseman. It's not a costume, it's real. And the cobwebs for the decorations come from inside Biden's head. You know how you can tell no one's in charge? Where are those infamous executive orders that Biden unleashed when he got in? Remember how that was meant to show he was in charge when really it was all symbolic? Take the border crisis. All he wanted was to reverse Trump-era policy, let the new policy fail, then slyly revert back to Trump's and act like he saved us from the disaster that he needlessly put us in. Now, with this massive crisis, nothing. He could do something, but he won't. And speaking of Trump, He would have nuked the supply chain crisis like it was a hurricane. The same way he solved North Korea, the Middle East with the Abraham Accords, and of course the vaccines. He would have targeted the issues and blown them up like they were Soleimani on the way to the airport. With the supply chain, he would have created a warp speed in a trucker hat. Just with his Hells Angels connections alone, the shelves would already be teeming with Christmas toys. Oh, wait, that's right. His tweets were sometimes abrasive. So let's replace him with a cross between Gilligan and Thurston Howell III. The result? Biden remorse. With no one claiming responsibility for solving this problem. Not Pete, not Joe, not even Kamala. She's too busy avoiding the immigration crisis. Even migrants don't run from the border like she does. Meanwhile, we found out that this clown show, Merrick Garland, had breezily targeted domestic terrorists, i.e. parents, based on a fact-free letter from a left-wing group that had colluded with the government beforehand. So it was all manufactured. This guy's dirtier than Dana Perino's mouth after 2 shots of Fireball. He also says he gets most of his info from the news, I guess meaning CNN, which explains his empty head. He didn't know about the attack on the Department of the Interior or the rape in Loudoun County because CNN only reports news that protects a coddled audience with room temperature IQs. The politicians quote the media, and the media quotes the politicians. Round and round they go. I won't use the crude expression for that kind of circle, but I don't want Jeffrey Toobin to get excited. So like Joe and Mayor Pete, Merrick's another headless horseman. No ideas, no nothing, just strutting his stuff and leaving behind piles of horse crap for the peasants to shovel up. But now he kicked a hornet's nest with his bare feet. You think Black Lives Matters or the Tea Party was a movement? Try millions of scorned parents from all economic groups with more racial diversity than a 1980s Benetton ad. Garland kicked a mama bear, and the bear has the temperament of a constipated Bernie Sanders. Now, parents may be disadvantaged as activists. They're new at it, and also they're too busy to occupy a park, block a highway, or poop on a sidewalk. They have jobs, real ones, but they also have kids, who I hate. But I get it. You get between parents and their children, you start a battle that'll be over quicker than a typical Joe Biden workday. The headless horseman should be scared. He claimed he was going to unify a country, and he did, against him. Let's welcome tonight's guest. She only goes by one name, like Madonna, Geraldo, and Psoriasis. Host of Kennedy on Fox Business, Kennedy. He started and sold 15 companies in the time it took for this introduction. Author of Wokey, Vivek Ramaswamy. He's so white he can't be worn after Labor Day. Fox News contributor Tom Shalhoub. And when life gives her lemons, she runs down Fifth Avenue, squeezing them in people's eyes. Fox News contributor Kat Tipp. So, Kennedy, is it me, or does it feel like America is on autopilot? Like, we don't have any plans to fix any big problems. It's like they're pretending like it's still summer.
Yes, but that's the one common thread that runs through this administration, is no one takes responsibility for anything. No one maturely acknowledges that there are problems to begin with. They just sit there in a holding pattern, just waiting for the weather to clear so they can land and not have to discuss any of this ever again. And it doesn't matter what it is.
Yes.
Like inflation, Afghanistan, immigration, all of these things are not going away.
Yes.
And blaming people for ordering treadmills or blaming Americans for not getting out of Afghanistan, those are not solutions to ongoing crises. And it's the kind of thing where everyone thinks, and I am one of those people that Joe Biden is run by committee.
Right.
He is when he's in a good mood, but when he's in a bad mood and he's still got, mush brain, he's like, no, I'm still going to be the one in charge. I'm not going to be the nice guy, and I'm not going to let you do stuff. Grr. And it leaves the country in a real lurch.
Yeah, it's like they treat every problem like a one-night stand. It's a bad idea, it happened, but then they pretend it didn't happen. Let's just move on. Vivek, when he said, "What am I doing here?" that could be a slogan for 2024.
It's deep existential question. Here we go. I'm wondering the same thing. I mean, I'm going to make a prediction, though, Greg, and it's not necessarily from Joe Biden. It's from the people who manage him. The more we see supply chain shortages, the more inflation we see, the more foreign policy disasters we see, the more woke smoke we're going to start hearing from this administration, too. Because that is what this is all about, is not just insulating themselves from accountability, but distracting people, changing the subject. And now, as this administration goes south, I predict right now, mark my words, we're going to see more declarations about racial inequity. We're going to see more discussion about transgenderism. We're going to see more discussion about the kinds of cultural issues that are designed to distract the public from their own failures. And you know what? The magic trick might have worked in the beginning, but I think as people start to actually pay more in their credit card, pay more at the pump, I don't think they're going to fall for it anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm actually I think this could be the medicine we need, actually, is that we put the guy in office, suffer the consequences a little bit, and then I think that'll actually get us past the cultural problem.
Like all those politically correct wokeism platitudes you can indulge in times of luxury, but in times of panic, they're exposed for what they are, utterly worthless and actually destructive, because it keeps symbolic action, always keeps you from real action, which I tell Tom all the time. Joe always says the buck stops here, but then he blames somebody else. The buck stops here, over there.
And it's like, which buck? That's the thing, is there's so many things.
Yes.
There are so many things going wrong. I mean, we didn't even talk about all of his restrictions on liberty. That's what, we watch him bumbling around the stage, and there's something funny about it. And it makes you think that he's a harmless figure. It would be one thing if he were just doing nothing and the world was getting worse.
Yeah.
But he's actually doing things.
Right.
He's forcing masks on children and adults. That's not good. He's forcing injections on people. That's not good. He's shutting down the economy. I mean, the shutdowns, they hurt this country so badly. So he's doing real harm, but he looks like Mr. Magoo, so we forget that he's really hurting the country so much.
Right. Don't smear Mr. Magoo.
He didn't mean it.
Voiced by Jim Backus.
Yes.
Who?
Thurston
Howell III. Whoa!
Wow,
of
my
life.
entire brain is just on fire right now.
It's a simulation.
It is a
That proved
simulation.
it.
Everything's a simulation. Kat, what is interesting to me, and I assume it's interesting to you because you work for me, I've never seen a leader so nonchalant about bearing bad news. Like, it's almost like it is not his problem. It's your problem. Suck it up. Lower your expectations. It's kind of weird.
I mean, it's an effective tool, actually. If you want to give someone bad news, you act like it's no big deal, hoping they match the mood. I've used that method repeatedly.
Really?
Yeah.
In what manner? Examples, please.
Well, I'd rather not, because then all my work would be for nothing.
That is true.
But I will say the most alarming thing about the town hall is, remember last week they let us all know, earlier this week, that all the questions would be pre-screened? Mm-hmm. There were no surprises there.
Yeah.
And that still happened. He forgot the name of the Port of Long Beach, and that's what it's called, the Port of Long Beach.
and Kat, how hard is it to remember a long beach?
It's not. He knew about all those questions.
Yes.
How does that happen?
I don't know. It's interesting what would have happened if they were spontaneous.
I would love to watch that.
But I mean, the scary thing about it is he was way better in the debates than he is now, and that suggests that this thing is going in a rather quick direction. But I won't. I'm not a doctor, although I do pretend to be one on the weekends.
Are you saying that he was juicing and hopped up on some of Hunter's booger sugar?
Yes, I think that's exactly what I was saying, Kennedy.
Wow.
Yes. I'm not saying he wasn't doing an 8-ball before the debates, but I'm not saying.
No.
That's how you get around the speculation. Also, if you do what CNN does and raise a question.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
just asking questions.
Yes. All right, we must move on. What a great start.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.